1982, and how that night forever changed her life. After Ford spoke, Judge Kavanaugh addressed the committee, saying he unequivocally and categorically denies Ford's allegations and that he was there today to clear his name.
Abigail, one of the things we heard from Dr. Ford today is she believes without a doubt that Judge Kavanaugh was the person responsible for sexually assaulting her when the two were back in high school. Let's take a look at her opening statement.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give before this committee?
After swearing to tell the truth, Dr. Christine Blasey Ford described in vivid detail her memory of the alleged attack by Brett Kavanaugh in a suburban Maryland home outside of Washington, 36 years before he'd be nominated to the Supreme Court.
I am here because I believe it is my civic duty to tell you what happened to me while Brett Kavanaugh and I were in high school.
Ford explained how they met through friends, though they attended separate schools.
We did not know each other well, but I knew him and he knew me.
She recalled the night she says changed her life forever, a gathering with Kavanaugh and a few other friends. She says she was pushed into a bedroom where her attacker groped her and tried to take her clothes off with a friend watching nearby. Ford feared for her life when her attacker covered her mouth to muzzle the screams.
It was hard for me to breathe, and I thought that Brett was accidentally going to kill me.
Ford's testimony is supported by a polygraph. She claims the only reason she's come forward now is because her identity had been made public.
It is not my responsibility to determine whether Mr. Kavanaugh deserves to sit on the Supreme Court. My responsibility is to tell you the truth.
Abigail, how are senators reacting to Ford's testimony? What are you hearing on the Hill?
Well, during the hearing, a lot of the Democratic senators were still calling, saying that they wish that they'd had an FBI investigation, and they also wish that more witnesses were able to testify, particularly Mark Judge, who Dr. Ford named as in the room during the alleged incident. And Republicans did not necessarily come out saying that they did not believe her. Actually, a lot of them said that they did find her testimony credible and believe that something happened to her. They're not sure if that was Judge Kavanaugh or what happened, but they do believe that something happened to her many years ago. But they also just said that they wish, Senator Lindsey Graham says he felt ambushed, but how Senator Feinstein knew about this for 6 weeks and never brought this forward before, so they could look into doing an FBI investigation. And they feel rushed with this timeline and how they waited until just right before the midterms to suddenly bring forth these allegations against him.
Abigail, Republican committee members yielded their line of questioning, of course, to prosecutor Rachel Mitchell. And the line of thinking, it really was had a lot to do with the Me Too movement. Talk about that.
Well, I think a lot of that was optics. All of the senators, the Republican senators on the Senate Judiciary Committee are men, and so they did not think it would look good, or they had a lot of pressure to have a woman there questioning Dr. Ford. And a lot of Senator Lindsey Graham and both Senator John Cornyn came out of the hearing saying that they thought Rachel Mitchell did a great job, that she did exactly what she needed to do and did a good job just laying out what exactly were Dr. Ford's claims.
All right. Well, Abigail, once Dr. Ford answered questions, the Judiciary Committee took a break. When they returned, Judge Kavanaugh got his turn to give his opening statements. Judge Kavanaugh took his turn on the stand, once again denying the allegations made by Dr. Ford and other women who have come forward this week.
There's been a frenzy on the left to come up with something, anything, to block my confirmation.
His goal, to clear his name and make these senators believe his account is more credible than Ford's.
I'm here today to tell the truth. I've never sexually assaulted anyone, not in high school, not in college, not ever.
Kavanaugh told the committee he spent most of his time at Georgetown Prep focused on academics, sports, church, and community service, though he did acknowledge he wasn't perfect.
I drank beer with my friends. Almost everyone did. Sometimes I had too many beers. Sometimes others did. I liked beer. I still like beer. But I did not drink beer to the point of blacking out, and I never sexually assaulted anyone.
Kavanaugh vowed to not be intimidated into withdrawing from this process. And while he doesn't question whether Ford was assaulted by someone, he says he never touched her.
I'm not questioning that Dr. Ford may have been sexually assaulted by some person in some place at some time. But I have never done this to her or to anyone. That's not who I am. It is not who I was. I am innocent of this charge.
Yeah, and Abigail, he came out swinging today. At one point, he talked about how his 10-year-old daughter had mentioned that she wanted to pray for Dr. Ford. What were kind of your takeaways from his testimony?
Well, he talked a lot about how no matter if he makes it onto the Supreme Court or not, his life is forever changed by the past 2 weeks and what he's been through. He talked a lot about the emotional turmoil and just how this has, as he said, destroyed his family. He talked about what he likes doing, how he loves teaching law and coaching his girls' basketball team, and how he might, no matter what, never be able to go back to doing that because of what's been said about him the past 2 weeks. And he really said that he wonders the lasting effect that this will have on future judicial nominations, because what he said, what he's been through, who would want to put their family through this process? And he really talked a lot about the turmoil that as a family they've gone through.
Abby, I know the question on everyone's minds now is what happens next?
Well, if Chairman Grassley feels that he has the full support from the majority of Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee, they will have that vote at 9:30 tomorrow morning to decide whether or not to send him to the full Senate with a favorable recommendation. And if that happens, then he is on his way to a vote on the full Senate next week.
Us from what happened here this morning. And what happened here this morning was that we heard from Dr. Christine Ford, who spoke to us with quiet, raw, emotional power about what happened to her. She said she was 100% certain that it was you who attacked her. And she explained how she came forward, how she struggled with her decision, how she wanted the president to know so that he could make a better choice. So when you and my colleagues on the other side accuse us of ambushing you with false charges, I think we all have to remember Dr. Ford's testimony and her courage. Let me go back to something you just said in your opening. You said you thought at your first hearing the Democrats were an embarrassment. We asked you a lot of questions in those days. And which of our questions do you think were an embarrassment? I asked you about dissents you had written as a judge, an amicus brief you wrote as a lawyer, and your knowledge of sexual harassment and abuse by your close friend and mentor, Alex Kozinski. All valid questions in this setting. They are valid because this is a job interview for one of the most important positions of trust in this country. And earlier you agreed that this process of advice and consent is really a job interview. Certainly not a criminal trial. There's certainly no entitlement for you to be confirmed to the Supreme Court. Are credibility, character, and candor of a nominee things for us to consider in your job interview?
I think my whole life is subject to consideration.
Is that yes? Credibility, character, and candor. Are those specific traits that would be of interest to us as we consider putting you for life on the highest court in the country? Credibility, character, and candor.
Of course, and as part of my whole life.
Is temperament also an important trait for us to consider?
For 12 years, everyone who's appeared before me on the D.C. Circuit has praised my judicial temperament. That's why I have the unanimous, well-qualified rating from the American Bar Association and all the people who've appeared before you.
So you would agree that temperament is also an important factor for
Yes, and the federal public defender who testified to the committee talked about how I was always open-minded and how I'd ruled in favor of unpopular defendants, how I was fair-minded. I think universally, lawyers who've appeared before the D.C.
So the answer is yes. I am running out of time. You know, we only have 5 minutes, so let me get to something else. In your Fox News interview, you said that you, quote, always treated women with dignity and respect, end quote, and that in high school you never, quote, drank so much that you couldn't remember what happened the night before. Would you say the same thing about your college life?
Yes.
So I'd like to read you statements from people who knew you in college.
Sarah,
And
can I say
Senator
one thing?
Coons noted that James Roche said, your roommate, although Brett was normally reserved, he was a notably heavy drinker, even by the standards of the time, and he became aggressive and belligerent when he was drunk. So is your former college roommate lying?
I would refer you to what I said in the sealed or redacted portion about his relationship with the other two roommates, and I'm going to leave it at that. I will say, Senator, you're asking about college. I got into Yale Law School. That's the #1 law school in the country. I had no connections there. I got there by busting my tail in
I feel
college.
insulted as a Georgetown graduate.
Excuse me?
Go on.
I'm sorry. It's ranked #1. That doesn't mean it's #1. And, you know, in college, two things. A, I studied. I was in cross-campus library every night. And B, I played basketball for the junior varsity. I tried out for the varsity. With, the first day I arrived on campus, we had captain's workouts. I played basketball every day, all through. And then as soon as the season was over in late February, captain's workouts started again. I was obsessed with
So
being
you
the best
were not
basketball player.
I only have 23 seconds. So you were not as sloppy drunk, and so your roommate was lying. What about Liz
I will
Busher?
refer you again to the redacted portion. I'll say, look at my academic record, and I don't usually like to talk about myself this way, but in response to you know, I worked very hard in college in my studies, and I also played basketball, I did sports, and I also did socialize.
Excuse me, I know that the chairman is going to stop me, but I do have some other references from people who knew you who say that you were not the basic
time
choir
is
board.
up.
But, hold on. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Senator, tell us.
I would like to, Mr. Chairman, okay, I'll wait until we finish because I just want to enter some letters into the record. Could I do that?
It wasn't clear that's
It's not
what
a
you were
question.
doing.
I could go on. But, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to enter into the record 4 letters. One is dated September 18th, 2018 to you from all of the Democrats on this committee. Another is a letter dated September 18th to Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, and Don McGahn, counsel to the president, signed by all the Democrats on this committee. A September 21st letter signed by Chuck Schumer and Dianne Feinstein to the president, and a September 26th letter signed by all the Democrats on this committee, all requesting an FBI investigation, because you did say all we have to do is ask, and the implication being that if we ask, an investigation will happen, and it certainly has not happened. Thank you, Mr.
Without
Chairman.
objection, that will be included. Senator, tell us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge Kavanaugh, thank you again for being here, and I apologize for what you're going through right now. I can't imagine it. I've gone through a campaign and had a lot of smears, but it pales in comparison to what you've had to deal with. I think one point that I'd like to make from the onset, if we go back and review how this committee process has worked, we've got a lot of work to do. We've had members take it on themselves to release committee confidential documents instead of respecting the process. We've had an allegation held for nearly 7 weeks that would have given us plenty of time to investigate. And then when we finally got the information, I invite everybody, particularly the American public, there is an investigation going on. And a lot of it's been documented. There's a chronology on the website that says that each and every time an allegation was made, the staff followed up on it. And sadly, in several different instances, the Democrats declined to participate. They listened in on at least one interview with you, didn't ask a single question. If they wanted to find other leads and other things to do, why not ask? If you're really trying to get to the facts, if you're really trying to do your job to investigate. We're investigating. It's our job. I think in response to the ranking member's question that Judge Kavanaugh said, I'm here, you're asking me questions. But you know what? When the committee staff, I assume, directed by the ranking member, says, no, we're not going to ask questions of Judge Kavanaugh when he wanted to come in and clear his good name, what are you really after? You may not be after the truth. Maybe you are. Maybe you're after executing some sort of a political agenda. Maybe it's a mix of both. But I think you've been treated unfairly, and I'm amazed that after 32 hours of testimony, 1.5 hours I sat in this room, that none of these questions came up when it was all fully known. Lawyered up, as a matter of fact. I also want to go back to the comments this morning. I think I heard, and we can go back to the record if someone disagrees with me, I think I heard Dr. Ford say that she wasn't aware of the fact that we said we'd come to California, we'd make it confidential, we'll completely depose and ask any questions you want to. I think I heard her say she wasn't aware of that. I don't know where that came with counsel or not, or whether counsel just neglected to tell her counsel, but the fact of the matter is that offer was out there. We were moving heaven and earth and even moving the schedule to get to the truth. We're doing an investigation. We're doing our level best. I hope that the American people who are watching this will go out to the Senate Judiciary website and take a look at this chronology. Take a look at the lack of investigation on the part of the people who want the investigation. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Every opportunity you have to go and question a witness, every opportunity that we've had to find more truth, to find more facts, we've done it. It's documented. We've got sworn statements. We're doing our job. We're doing the committee work. Judge Kavanaugh, I also have to say, I believe that you're you're the first major target of a new strategy that's developed here. And I think you're right. I think it's just basically attack, attack, attack. It's not advise and consent. It's search and destroy. And maybe one of the best evidence of this is one of the websites, one of the groups that are out there attacking you and trying to create fodder and all of these red herrings has already acquired a URL for the next judge that they're going to attack. The URL's right here. They've already purchased it. They're ready to go. This is the playbook. This is the way we're going to run this committee from this point forward. Take a look at it. I'll make sure we get it out on our website. We've already got a Stop Another Judge who hasn't been nominated URL from the same people that are trying to mobilize people to attack you. There are some people here who may sincerely have concerns. I would tell you to pound the table with your ranking member and the leadership on your side to say, why didn't we ask questions? Why did we listen in and defer? Why didn't we do our part of the investigation while this leader did everything he could to accommodate Dr. Ford and to run down every single lead that's been presented to us? Weeks after it was known to the minority. I look forward to supporting your confirmation. I believe that you're going to be on the bench. You know, as Senator Cornyn said, these are allegations that can be pursued through the courts if they actually rise to a level to where they can be prosecuted. And everybody on the other side of this dais knows that that's not going to happen.
Senator Booker.
Judge Kavanaugh, you drank on weekdays as well in high school, not just weekends. Is that
On
correct?
weekdays?
Yes, sir.
I'd say that's rare. Are you talking about during the school year?
I'm talking about the calendars that you provided during these dates.
Oh,
and that's
summer. in the summer after a football workout when we went over to.
You drank on weekdays, yes or no, sir?
In the summer, when we went over to Timmy's house on July 1st, that would indicate yes.
Yes, in other words, that July 1st reference to skis, went over for skis, that's brewskis, correct?
And after Tobin.
Sir, I just need a yes or no. That brewskis, right?
Well, I need to explain in context.
You just said, sir, that you drank on weekdays. That's all I was looking for.
Well, no.
If I may ask the next question, sir. You said clearly on the record, I just want you to restate it, that you never in your life, after drinking heavily to the point of throwing up, and again, you said you had a weak stomach, you said you never had gaps in memories, never had any losses whatsoever, never had foggy recollection about what happened. Is that correct, sir? Yes or no?
That's what I said.
Okay. Sir, you also said that this past 2 weeks has been a 2-week effort calculated and orchestrated as a political hit. Are you saying that Dr. Ford's efforts to come forward, to prepare for the very difficult testimony she gave today, to travel to Washington, D.C. and tell us about her experience, have all been part of an orchestrated political hit? And are you basically calling her some kind of political operative?
I've said my family has no ill will toward Dr. Ford. She wanted confidentiality. Her confidentiality was blown by the actions of this committee, and it's turned this into a circus.
So, sir, let's just be clear. In other words, you have problems with the senators that are up here and how we conducted it, but you're not saying in any way that she is a political pawn, political operative. You have sympathy for her. She is talking about a sexual assault. Is that correct?
I said all allegations should be taken seriously. You should listen to both sides. My family has no ill will toward her.
Thank you, sir. Do you wish that she never came forward?
Senator, I did not do this. The witness.
That's not my question, sir. Could you try to answer my question, sir? Do you wish she never came forward?
The witnesses who were there say it didn't happen.
Okay, sir. Do you wish she just remained silent then?
I wish the witnesses who were there say it didn't happen. All allegations should be taken seriously.
So even if it's in the final days before a vote, if someone has a credible allegation of experience that they held for a long time, that person should be allowed to come forward. And in fact, as she said, it was her civic duty. You're not questioning her sense of civic duty, are you?
She did come forward, and then it was.
I know you have a lot of political animus. You stated it very clearly towards my colleagues and I on this panel. What I'm trying to get to the bottom of is you do not see her specifically as part of an orchestrated event. She is not a political pawn.
I don't know her, but I've also said that we bear no ill will toward her. She wanted confidentiality. This could have been handled.
And I understand, but she came forward. She took a great extent. Yeah. Your family has gone through hell. Her family has gone through hell. Right. She sat here. She told her truth. And you made the allegation that she was coordinating it. I do not think she was coordinating with the therapist.
I did not say that. That's a.
You said this. I'm sorry. So you said that others were making a coordinated attack.
Coordinated by.
Forgive me. You were talking about us, not her. So she was not. She was not doing this for political efforts in 2012 when she talked to her therapist about this attack. She was not coordinating about this painful experience when she made revelations to her husband. She did not coordinate in 2013, 16, 2017, before you even nominated, when she revealed that it was you with 3 different people that had sexually assaulted her. That wasn't coordination. And Lindsay,
all the witnesses who were there say it didn't happen. Ms. Kaiser is her longtime friend, said she never saw me at a party with or without Dr.
And Ms. Kaiser has said clearly, and I'll quote what she said. She said she does not remember the night in question. That supports what you said. But she also says that she believes Dr. Ford. And so my colleague Lindsey Graham, who I respect and have admiration to and has been a partner of mine, he said voting no would be legitimizing the most despicable thing in American politics. Do you think that people who believe Dr. Ford are legitimizing despicable things? Those of us who think she's a credible witness, the allegations against her are credible, do you think that somehow we are engaging in something that's despicable?
Senator, I say listen to both sides before you make a bottom line conclusion, and look at the.
That is fair. I have 10 seconds left, sir. You can answer after I finish. You have 10 seconds left. That is fair. Listen to both sides. This is not about one side being despicable, the other side not. Listen to both sides. She was a credible. I'm going to finish my question. You can answer. She gave credible, meaningful testimony. A woman who had the courage to come forward and tell her truth, sir. And that's what I'm just asking you to say. She is not a political pawn. She is not orchestrating. She is not part of the Clintons' efforts to get some kind of revenge. She is a woman who came here with corroborating evidence to tell her truth.
Is that a question?
No, sir. It was a final statement.
Senator Cruz.
Just on one thing, Mr. Chairman, the evidence is not corroborated at the time. The witnesses who were there say it didn't happen.
No, that's not what he said. Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge Kavanaugh, you and your family have been treated incredibly poorly by Senate Democrats and by the media. And let me say also, I think Dr. Ford and her family have been treated incredibly poorly by Senate Democrats and the media. You have both seen your good names dragged through the mud. And this has been, sadly, one of the most shameful chapters in the history of the United States Senate. Let me say to you and your family, thank you for a lifetime of public service. I will say, watching your mother's pained face has been heart-wrenching as she's seen her son's character dragged through the mud after not only your lifetime of public service, but her lifetime of public service as well. And I know as a father, there's been nothing more painful to you than talking to your daughters and explaining these attacks that the media is airing. I also believe, though, that the American people are a fair-minded people, that the American people can set aside the partisan warfare of Washington and look to substance and facts. And that is the charge of this committee. Now, there have been 3 different sets of allegations that have dominated the media. I think it's important to note that 2 of those sets of allegations had so little corroboration that even the New York Times, which is no conservative outlet, refused to report on them because they could find no basis for them. And it was striking in this entire hearing that not a single Democrat in this committee asked about 2 sets of those allegations. Ms. Ramirez's allegations and the allegations of the client of Mr. Avenatti. Not a single Democrat. I don't know if they were just too embarrassed. Mr. Avenatti's allegations were so scandalous that the ranking member omitted his client's most scandalous accusations of you as a criminal mastermind, essentially. Omitted those scandalous accusations from her statement. This hearing has focused, rightly so, on the allegations Dr. Ford presented. And let me say, I think the committee did the right thing in giving Dr. Ford a full and fair opportunity to tell her story. That's what we needed to do when these allegations became public. And the committee treated her with respect, as we should. I do not believe Senate Democrats have treated you with respect. What do we know? We know that her testimony and your testimony are in conflict. A fair-minded assessor of facts would then look to what else do we know when you have conflicting testimony? Well, we know that Dr. Ford identified 3 fact witnesses who she said observed what occurred. All 3 of those fact witnesses have stated on the record under penalty of perjury that they do not recall what she is alleging happening. They have not only not corroborated her charges, they have explicitly refuted her charges. That's significant to a fair-minded fact finder. In addition, you walked through before this committee your calendars from the time. Now, I will say you were a much more organized teenager than I was, and than many of us were, but it was a compelling